Hi guys, and thank you for joining me for another video. It's been a while. I've missed you. How have you been? It's been a pretty hectic few months actually. That's the reason why we haven't uploaded as frequently as we usually do. So basically within the span of about a week of each other, both Myra and I had to move. So she moved to a new apartment and I moved upstairs from where I was living before. And even though I didn't have to go very far, it actually took a long time to just reset everything the way I wanted it. And by the time I'd managed to do that and had the studio back in place, my muse just fell off a cliff. I just couldn't even put a pen to paper. I dropped my paints. I had a lot of work in progress pieces and commission pieces that I just couldn't even work on. I don't usually get bad art block, but when I do, it tends to be quite bad. And even though usually I could perhaps sketch just to keep up the momentum, even if the work wasn't really going anywhere, in this case I just stopped completely and instead I dived into just reading. I've been neglecting my reading, and so I took the opportunity to focus on that, and it's only now that I'm sort of getting back into the groove. So that happened, and then as soon as my muse sort of came back slightly, I got a bit sick, and then Myra is currently not feeling great either, so it's just been one thing after the other. So this is a piece I worked on not too long ago. It's in my sketchbook, and it is one of those pieces that I would usually do just for the sake of doing something. I always find the inking and painting process to be one of the simplest, and so I tend to do that when I don't have the energy or motivation to work on anything more complicated, or to work on anything that I'm going to put up for sale. Now, usually what I end up working on in my sketchbook just stays in my sketchbook, but I guess I wanted to show you the process. This isn't the first time I've done an inking and water paint video, but I guess in this particular piece, I wanted to emphasize how little detail gets added with ink. So the pen is just an outline. I always consider it to be something like a watercoloring book. You know, if you get one of those adult coloring books and it's just been outlined. So I create one for myself and then I just play around with the paint. So start to finish, my materials are as follows. This is a moleskin sketchbook, so it's not even really made for paint or for water media, but I find that if I don't add too many watery layers, it tends to take it fine, though the paper does end up textured a bit, like perhaps not a texture that one might want, but I still don't mind. My first sketch is always done with either a graphite pencil or, in this case, a red lead. So I have some 0.5 red leads that I use in a mechanical pencil, and I do a quick initial sketch, and then I used a waterproof ink pen, I think it's a Stedler pen, just to do my outlines. The paint I use is all sorts of brands. I have a big collection of water paint tubes, and by experimenting with them, I tend to develop a liking for some over others, even if they are the same pigment. So I can't tell you off the top of my head the different brands that I've got here, but I will have a video for you soon of the exact makeup of my palette and the brands that I tend to prefer and how I choose the colors that I choose from a large selection of paint tubes that I have in my collection. And the brush that I'm using predominantly for that initial wash is a Winsor & Newton watercolor sable, natural sable brush. They tend to hold quite a bit of water and paint, and so allow the artist to put down a pretty even layer of color. If you take good care of your brushes, especially the sable ones, they will last a very, very long time. I tend to use multiple brushes in my pieces, so I was using that larger sable brush initially, and then for detailing later on you'll see that I used a much finer paintbrush. And I think I like that. I like adding the details with the paint as opposed to always adding it with the ink. It just sort of allows me to play around and to use the very fine tip of the brush to create those sort of fur-like lines, and I think it just looks better. It looks warmer than having, you know, all the detail added with ink. I think if you've been following our channel, you'll notice that I do have a thing for foxes, which is, yeah, kind of funny. We have foxes in Australia, but they're feral pests. So I don't want them in my country. They do a lot of damage, but I think I would love to see them in their natural habitat, perhaps in Europe. Yeah, red foxes are just very beautiful, so I always find myself, if I'm in the mood to just doodle, I always end up drawing foxes. So anyway, that's just the piece that I have for you today. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment below and I'll be happy to respond. We're going to try and improve our uploading schedule, but I think this year honestly has been a bit of a write-off, but we'll work on it. Anyway, I hope you're all doing well and I will see you in our next video.